Alright. Think we're good now. I hope we are good now. Yes, I am feeling a lot better. Let's get to it. Hello. I'm, of course, dressed. That way I look somewhat professional. I don't have my white shirt with me at the moment. It is being washed. So instead, you're going to get the OU shirt, which not going to be talking about OU. I did that yesterday. Uh, anywho, 1 second. One moment, please. Just doing this real quick. Alrighty. There you go. I had to do some of that stuff. Alright. Welcome, everyone. Beautiful day. It's much nicer outside. It's not cold. Well, it's still cold, but it's not as cold. Again, like I said, I feel a lot better. I do have still have a runny nose, but my voice is still a bit bad, crappy, but I am returning back to normal. Today we're going to talk about. I was wrong about Alabama. I was wrong about the Crimson Tide. So obviously Alabama went 11-4, and under Kalen DeBoer, I almost I was expecting a little bit more of a regression, but turns out they had a bit more of a surge. So we're gonna go over it. 2025 is over. The 2025 regular season is in the books. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and talk about the off season. I've got a lot of stuff coming for the off season. I'm gonna be doing some college basketball content. Now that I'm free of football, I'm going to go to my second channel, the Alex McKinney Show, and on there, I'm going to be able to start posting other stuff there as well. some cool games we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be doing a bunch of stuff there, so that'll be perfect. I had to push some again. I pushed some of the stuff of it further down the line because of this. I got sick. Like I said, over the weekend, I guess it was Friday or Saturday, but over the weekend I got really sick. I think it started Sunday. I think it was Saturday or it was early Sunday to late afternoon that Sunday. I got really sick, and it's been happening for the past 2 days now. But I'm better. Obviously, you could tell. So, the Crimson Tide, they went 11-4, and they end off the season with a crushing defeat. So, first of all, I wanted to give a little round of applause to Kalen DeBoer. He is going to be awesome at Alabama. I cannot believe that he somehow did it. We're going to talk all about it today on the show. Funny enough, in the SEC, I think, now I could be wrong, but Alabama is probably the only team out of the SEC to play two opponents twice. They played Georgia twice and they played Oklahoma twice. So yeah. Now with the conference moving to a 9-game schedule, it's going to get harder because now you only have one bye week instead of two. So now you don't have that bye week. You only have one bye week, and that's selected by the committee, and then everything else is run. So it's going to be a lot harder, but it'll be a lot more rewarding, and you'll get it. I talked about it with Oklahoma, where I said that when I went over their schedule, that with this 9-game schedule, the SEC is trying to get at most top programs into the playoffs, just so that way they can reclaim the Big Ten. But also, they want to prevent. They're trying to basically give themselves an unfair advantage because the Big Ten still has their schedule. Maybe they do. They still have a 10-game schedule where they play 2 out of conference teams. So they have to according to the rules, and I'm just going to go for all. I'm going to talk about more about this in the SEC video tomorrow, Thursday. But basically, this is saying that the rule book says that per the committee's choice or selection on Selection Sunday, they will be not selection on come spring camp. Every team will have their 2026 schedule posted for them to look at, and the committee. And before all this happened, before 2025, you're always to play one out of conference team, and you're always playing at least one FCS school. For instance, Ohio State scheduled Texas out of conference game, which was the big reason Texas failed to make it to the playoffs. Also with Florida, but then say Alabama, they had to do one, so they did Florida State, which was a bad decision by them, obviously. So now with the 9-game schedule, you only need an FCS school, and you only have 4 projected opponents. So basically, you're guaranteed a new space every time. And because they're trying to make more rivalries, but also get more viewership from these rivalries. I'll explain it more in the Thursday video, but back to Alabama. Looking at their schedule from 2025, they had that loss to Florida State, which was a blemish on their record. They obviously had that loss against Oklahoma and against Georgia in the SEC championship. But they were dominant. They were able to win one-score games the entire time. They were playing with fire, and eventually they got burned by Oklahoma. Fitting. Sorry. But yeah, so I'm gonna glaze over Florida State because Florida State was like, we won against Alabama, let's collapse and be done, and they went back to bed. UM Monroe, I don't care. Wisconsin, I don't care. They want to. We'll get to Georgia and Oklahoma in a minute because they're a special case in this schedule here. There's some anomalies in the schedule. But the surprising win they had was they beat Vanderbilt, although they should have lost to Vanderbilt, in my opinion. And Diego Pavia got into his head too much and cost him the game. And we'll see what happens with that. But Alabama, basically, the schedule was setting up to make them have rivalries a lot better than, say, Georgia and Texas, Because right now, Texas only has, what is it? Only has only two SEC rivals. All A&M, obviously, and uh, Oklahoma. That's the only ones they have. So their committee is hoping again, we'll do all the other teams. When I cover Texas, I'll go over their schedule. But like I said, when we get to that, then their committee is setting up for a lot of rivalries to happen. And we've already seen Oklahoma and Alabama become one. Georgia and Vanderbilt and Alabama starting to become one. Oklahoma and Georgia could possibly become one come 2026 this year, this upcoming August. So, yeah. But the stretch between Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina, and LSU, I think the 5-game stretch they had was probably the most I've seen a team fight. And this is why Georgia and Alabama is always a good game, because no matter how hard these two teams fight, they somehow find ways to win. They claw and scratch their ways into winning games. And they did it against Vanderbilt. They did it against Missouri. They did it against Tennessee, South Carolina. And then they whipped LSU off the face of the earth. But that's what happened. That 5-game stretch, that 6-game stretch, sorry. So the 5-game stretch when they faced ranked opponents, it was going to be daunting, and they handled it after the Florida State loss with pure rage. And then we roll. So now they're 8-1, and they're 6-0 in the conference. And on cue, as the season has showed us, right on cue, Oklahoma trickles in to Alabama's home field in Tuscaloosa, Bryant Day Stadium. And in Bryant Day Stadium, Oklahoma walks in and beats Alabama for the second year in a row, 23-21. And it's just poetic. So they played with fire, and then they got caught with fire. So I'm not trying to make excuses for Alabama. They had a phenomenal season. Let me say that clearly. 1 second. Sorry. They had a phenomenal year. That Oklahoma loss, Blitz, I think, scared them a bit. And it scared them a lot because the next following week, they were able to put their backups in against Eastern Illinois, whatever. They had to hold off a gritty and hard-hitting Auburn team. Hi, Shale. It's good to see you, man. Welcome to my job. But yeah, as I was saying, just utter scaredness from Alabama. And I think Auburn is the only team that was just all they had to do was not give up 15 fumbles at the end there, and they could have been the ones to end Alabama's season. Fortunately, they did not, and then they got whipped by Georgia. But that Oklahoma loss was the turning point in the season. Kalen DeBoer he had lost to Oklahoma twice. And if we know anything about Bryant Day Stadium, if you piss off the fans, oh my Lana. Let me just tell you right now, they are going to grill you until the ends of the earth. Because they expect a national champion, at least a final appearance. So the fact they lost to Oklahoma for the second time in a row. Now, granted, they got their revenge in the playoffs, which is ironic. But again, the committee intentionally gave them Oklahoma to set up these rivalries because it's basically think of like a little trap. So here's the committee, here's the teams of the SEC. The committee walks up to them and like, hey, do you guys want to have a rivalry week be even better? And they're like, sure. What do you have to offer? Well, what if we gave you all your technical rivals a chance to battle you? And the teams are like, what do you mean? And well, the committee was like, how about we give you Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Tennessee as your rivals, and then you go beat up on some lowy South Carolina, Florida State, and all that, and we'll go from there. We want money, and you will give us money. Okay, but what is in it for us? You get to have a new hatred for your rival. Deal? They shook hands. Here we are. We have a new rivalry born from Oklahoma and Alabama called the Battle of the Trenches, and I'm excited. We'll see what happens with that going forward. SEC Ring of Fire, go watch the previous stream if you want to hear about that theory. It's the most funniest meme that's been going around the internet. Also, Kirk Cinetti. If you Google Kirk Cinetti and say it says, "Yep, he won." Still, the fucking highlighted the thing. I'll show you guys. We'll do that. But yeah, looking again, Eastern Illinois. I think Oklahoma. So then they lose to Oklahoma. They are demoralized, but they put their backups in, and then they go on this small run against Auburn. They get that. Ty Simpson puts his life on the line, gets the dub, and then they go face Georgia in the SEC championship, and Georgia says, here. Georgia walked up to Alabama and basically said, hi, how are you? And belt them off the face of the planet. I've never seen Alabama. Mind you, Alabama came really close to being the first time they had lost by more than 30. They were one safe penalty. They were a penalty drive away from being down by 30 for the first time since 2015. Little did they know what was about to happen in the playoffs. So then the big poetic rivalry, the bow on the string for these two teams. Alabama, Oklahoma, the two giants, one of the Big 12 and one of the SEC, go clash one more time in Norman, just like last year. But this time, Alabama, they get the edge over Oklahoma. And you just tip your cap and they win. They walk out of there 34-24, and they get a massive dub. Let's see if we can get in focus here. And yeah. So that's what happened. All right. Shall we talk about Indiana or should we just move on? Well, we're going to talk about it. Indiana walks up. Alabama walks into Pasadena, shake hands with Kirk Cinetti, and then proceeds to get beat to death for 4 quarters by the machine itself. 38-3, first ever loss by 30 from an Alabama team. They did not score more. They only scored a measly 3 points against Indiana the entire game. Indiana took them out back and put a bullet through their head and didn't turn back and didn't look back. And that's how their season ended. 11-4. Now they still kept some of their star offensive powers. For instance, they kept Ty Simpson's coming back. Williams, Jalen Williams is going to be back. Most of their O-line is going to be back. Some of their defensive lines, some of them may be back, but it's going to be a different team, obviously. But some of those pieces will be coming back. We're still waiting on the status on Ty Simpson and what he's going to do, but it looks like he's going to come back to commit to Alabama again. We'll see how that progresses. And yeah, the transfer portal already closed, so he can't. But until he signs that paper for sure, we're just going to say, assumingly he's coming back for Alabama to play one more year before he declares for the draft. And anyways, so they're going to get him back. Obviously, they're going to have a tough. Let me focus here. Obviously, they're going to have a very, very tough time handling the new landscape of college football, but they should be able to handle it with ease, knowing that they're Alabama. So pulling up their 2026 schedule here, it's so easy. It's an easy schedule. They should be going. They should be able to go. What is it? They should be able. They're probably going to go 11 and probably 11 and they're probably going to go maybe 11-1. We'll see. Let me just tell you right now. I'm just going to say it right now. Hold on 1 second. This schedule is probably the easiest in the SEC by far, especially for Alabama. I have it right over here on my sheet. Let me read you this out. They host East Carolina. They go on the road to Kentucky. They host Florida State again. They host South Carolina. They go on the road to Mississippi State. They have their scheduled they host Georgia this time. They go on the road to face Tennessee. They host Texas A&M. They host LSU. They go on the road to Death Valley. They go on the road to First Bank Stadium to face Vanderbilt. They have their FCS school. Their FCS school is Chattanooga, whatever. So versus Chattanooga, they host that. And then they host, obviously, Auburn and the Iron Bowl this time. So, in terms of schedule, it's basically just walk down the street, murder a bunch of teams, and then come out with the headless Georgia. So, there's what I have about Alabama. Overall, my thoughts on Oklahoma and Alabama so far is knowing what the committee's trying to do with these teams right now, you just expect a lot more rivalries. Also, let me go over. I do want to talk about the NFL for a second because it is kind of intriguing to talk about. Mainly one certain Super Bowl that I did not expect we would see again. But I think I'll probably save that for a different video when I talk about other stuff. We shall see. But other than that, overall, I think Alabama has a manageable schedule. I think they can handle basically what's going to come. They don't have Oklahoma this time, so they don't have to face Missouri. No, yeah, they don't have to face Missouri. They don't have to face what is it? I don't remember. I need to look that again. Yeah, they don't have to face. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, so they don't have to face. Oh, actually, no. It's the same schedule. It's just a lot different, except for that Florida. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. So there's this difference. So now they moved. They wisely put Florida State as the third week 3 instead of week 1, which is kind of funny because it shows that Florida State genuinely scared the shit out of them. Yeah. But yeah, the first week of September 5th on Saturday, they will host East Carolina for week 1 of the regular season. But yeah. Yeah. So also I wanted to point out, since I'm on here, let me pull this up here because I wanted to show you what I mean by what they're trying to do with Oklahoma and Alabama. So on the screen right now, you see this is 2003. Under Nick Saban, they lost to Oklahoma. And then 2004. So then they didn't have to play Oklahoma for another year. They didn't have to play Oklahoma. And then they had to play Oklahoma State in the Independence Bowl. And they actually lost Oklahoma State. So they lost to both Oklahoma programs. So then they lost to Oklahoma in 2013, 45-31 in the Sugar Bowl. And then music. Then they finally got a win with Tua Tagovailoa in 2018 against Oklahoma, 45-34. And then, of course, they lost to Oklahoma last year, so they played Oklahoma 1. Right here. They played Oklahoma 2. And 4. So that's where we're at right now. I hope you guys have a safe day. I'm going to be done now. I got to go do some stuff. So take care. I love you all. I'll see you on Thursday because I have church tomorrow for the SEC future. Good day, everyone. And I'm Alex and love college football.